When it comes to drawing people in human anatomy, a lot of the time we think that we need this huge labyrinthian collection of knowledge where we're just like a walking library of human anatomy knowledge. It's like if we don't understand everything there is to know about human anatomy, we're worried that we just aren't going to do it good enough or it's not going to look right. But the truth is, you probably don't even most this here. There's like this little notebook here that's maybe just 50 pages long, if even that. And out of that, you might need the first 10 pages to get going with when it comes to drawing anatomy. I like to focus on those first few pages. So when I draw people, I always use the same basic structure. Got a ball for the head, ball for the torso. The triangle up top represents your upper part of your body, your chest, and the one on the bottom represents your pelvis area. These give me landmarks that help me figure out what I'm doing. From here, I'm going to drop this down real quick. I will do what I like to call rolling. I'll roll off of this bottom one, kind of like that. See how it's not perfect on either side, but I'm coming up to the bottom of this triangle, and that gives me a rough placement of the bottom of my rib cage. If I roll off the other way, that gives me a rough shape for my hips. And then I got this little spot right here where they kind of touch together. You just kind of gently add a little bit of curve like that, and boom, they're touching. At the bottom of the ball, kind of right here, I'll very gently draw a line down and intersect. That gives me a very rough position for where my legs are going to go. I'll come straight down, and you don't want to come down too far. One of the things that we do when we're drawing people, especially drawing when you're just getting started, is we tend to make these super long limbs because we're worried about making them too short, and so we end up with like Slender Man levels of length on them. Now these don't look bad, but if you were to slap it on this guy over here, it would look completely out of place. So you want to be mindful of that. Don't make them super long. Come down again. I use a little ball for the knee. When I get down here, I put a ball where the ankle is going to go. And I kind of do a shape like this for the feet if they're straight forward. It's not exactly a square. It's off to the side a little bit. But something like this. Up here, I put a ball in the corner. You'll notice I don't have it like up here like this. I've got it more down like this, and that is because if you feel your own shoulder and you imagine a triangle there, your shoulder is not like sitting up on the point of your chest. It's just kind of hanging there as well, kind of more like this. It's not like lifted up like this before it becomes an arm. It's hanging there. So we put the ball there. I'll gently put in a very simple collarbone. From about the middle of the ball, I'll draw down to right there. That gives me a very rough chest placement. Again, we're going to do some rolling off the top of the shoulder. And I'll create like an elongated tear shape. Like this. Another ball. Doesn't have to be perfectly positioned as long as you kind of get it in the right place. More rolling into another basic tear shape. Again, don't make these horribly long. My arms are probably already a little long. So seeing that, I'm going to kind of cut my wrists in right about, not actually going to cut my wrist, but into this image, into this tear shape, I do need to cut a position for them. So about right there. That puts them almost in line with the bottom of this triangle here. And if you were to stand up, your wrists would land just give or take about that position as well. For a very simple hand shape, we're going to use more or less this shape again, except tilting it the other way. And the reason for this is we only need a placeholder for now. We can build the hands out later, but we just need a placeholder for the time being. Now I'm going to come back to this ball up here and kind of roll off the back side of it around this way. Kind of gently touch right there. That gives me the lats. Then kind of from a middle right here, just down like that. If you really want one more, kind of the middle of this one, just very gentle like that. But you don't necessarily need that one. From here, align straight up into this ball. Now this ball here, as I get going, doesn't look like it's in a very good spot. So I'm gonna move it here in a second. From about this point here where the ball and the collarbone are, I just do a gentle curve up. Gentle curve up. And then I look at it and be like, where do I want to put the head? I think where it is currently a good place. I'm going to put the chin right about there. And a little bit of an egg shape. Now there is a very basic human form. Maybe we should put a little mark in there for where the crotch ought to be. Okay, so from here, let's just kind of knock this whole thing back. Let me get rid of that. Now this, in some ways, is both the hard part and the easy part, because this is where your knowledge of anatomy actually comes in. The whole purpose of this here is for proportion. You're trying to get your human figure into a fairly proportionate shape, because if it's not proportionate, it's just going to look off. So if I was to take my pen and start building out this one, like, it's really long, and if I start putting the muscles on there, even just very minimally, it's still going to look long. But if the torso's as short as this one, I'm just kind of very roughing it in so you get the basic idea. Like, now we've got, he looks wrong, like his proportions are off, and no amount of trying to put some pretty muscles on there is going to fix that. He's going to be disproportionate no matter what. And so we want to get the basic proportions in place first. When I start building up the figure, I'll usually kind of come back to the collarbone and work my way down. And don't be, this figure here is not meant to be a hard and fast, like this is my figure now. If you see something that's off, tweak it. So this is kind of a football or lemon shape right here. A gentle line down for the shoulder. About a lemon shape again. Leave a little bit of space at the bottom, because that kind of helps communicate where the elbow and the arm connect. Or what would be the elbow pit? I'm trying to intentionally avoid using like overly technical terms because I want to make it easy for people to remember. They may not be technical at all, but easy to remember is the goal here. Okay, so, and then for the hands, almost this exact same shape again. I'm just going to put a little bump for that. Now those might actually still be a bit too long, or they're a bit too low. So before we add any more, what if we move these up just a smidgen, like that? It's not sitting perfectly on our figure anymore, but I think it will feel better overall. So knowing that I moved this, I'm gonna stop this line just a little higher. But I can use this kind of as the bottom of the rib cage. So I'm gonna just kind of quickly put some lines there. And then I'm going to draw a line down the middle, not all the way, just a little bit, to show where that the abs go. Now we kind of have where this line from before is, helps us see where our abs go. Now I'll kind of just do like 1, 2, kind of something like that, because I'm not trying to draw perfectly straight lines, because the abs are not perfectly straight like that. It kind of gives the illusion that there's some muscle there. This lat muscle, I'm going to bring down to about there and stop it, and come back here and do the same thing again. I don't want to connect it all the way like that, because then it starts looking a little bit, too segmented, too broken up into pieces. When you can, you want to leave little gaps like these right here, in order to help the human figure look like it's more part of a whole and not broken up into a bunch of pieces just stuck together. Now, the hips. I think these are fine for a male character, probably still a little bit on the thin side. If I see that, I can always bring my undershape back and adjust it. So I'm going to switch to that layer. What if I want the hip to be more out here? Okay, so now I do that. Adjust the shape of that leg just a bit. That could be, and you see how little it takes to start really changing that figure. That now with just that adjustment, I'm starting to ask myself, well, am I drawing a boy or a girl? Is this a male or female figure? So I'm going to very gently come down here. Very gently come down here, following the shape but not sticking to it. Coming down to the side of the knee. Very gently put in this little crotch area. And come down to the side of the knee again. And a small, gentle line kind of around the edge of that ball still. Very gentle. It's kind of insinuating that it's going towards the crotch, and I actually don't like that one, so I think I'm going to do it more like this, just a little lower than the ball. For the knee, I'll usually just do kind of 3 lines like this, 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom, kind of something like this. It almost looks like a smiley face. It's happy knees. We're doing happy knees. Just to kind of give you the idea that they're there. Gently from back behind this other line. Gonna come down. Again, this is another one of those tear shapes like we did on the arms, except now we're doing it on the leg. I'm just being mindful of what I've already drawn so that I don't overdo it. Now the ankle actually has a couple bumps. The inside one is higher than the outside one, and so I'm going to just gently put a couple little bumps in right there, the kind of shape like that, kind of downward at a slant. And then when you're building out this foot, it obviously is not going to look like quite like this anymore. So I tend to just almost like there's 2 shapes now. And I'm overlaying them like this. In my mind, I do a gentle line from here and a gentle line like this. And then I just kind of erase the rest of that. If you need to go further, you don't like this, you can bring that down a little further and just kind of make a little curved shape out of it. And when you put it onto the figure, and I know I've got my bump there, it gives the illusion that they've got an arch to their foot. I actually don't like that last one very much. I don't like both of those. I think we can do better. For the feet, I'm going to zoom in. Helps to zoom into the right place. Helps to move the image and not just the layer. Okay. There's kind of that first squarey shape. Then I know that I need a dent there. There is that second squarey shape. That looks a bit better. There's that first square-like shape again. Then the second one. Ooh, that zoomed way out there. And there's that figure we were working on. Okay. For the neck, just gently follow this up. If you want to make it stronger, you can actually put more muscles on it. Like that. At least for... Actually, no, both men and women have muscles like that on their neck. But that's one thing you can do. When you don't have that, it tends to read as less built, less bulky. Or you can do a very gentle kind of curve up like that, just to expand the size of that curve. For the head, let's do that same basic egg shape. Just draw a line down the middle, right in the middle, and then divide it in four equal pieces roughly. It's not perfect, like the one on the bottom here is a little smaller than the one on the top. It's close enough. Now this dividing the face is kind of the trickiest part, and so to simplify that, I make a bit of a triangle from the bottom here. Really, I drew it the other way, so just up to the side. Try to make it as even as I can so that the spaces here on this side are roughly even. And then I do a line across the top. It should be just underneath that top ball, but that is roughly where the eyes are going to go. Let's go ahead and drop this back a little bit and make a new layer. I'm going to zoom in on that face. So these three dots kind of give you an idea where things go. I know that right here is roughly the level of my eyes. I think that one's too far over. I know that right here is roughly the position of my nose. And I know that on this one exactly is roughly the position of my mouth. And I know that my mouth is going to be roughly as wide as the edges of that triangle. And then, depending on how you draw these things, you can start building them out. I don't really like that nose, so let's put something else in. Yeah, that'll work for now. I know my ears are going to go roughly, if I'm looking at this line here, something about that. not quite as high as the eye, or like just about there-ish, just somewhere between the middle and the bottom of the eye. And somewhere around the bottom of the nose. You can play with the size of the ears, because we all have very different ears. And then I'll just put a little bit, almost like a bean shape, for the inside of the ear when I'm doing light sketches. You can follow this curve down here, and drop some lines in like that. I disconnected just so you can see how I do that. Come up. If you want a bald person, just bring it all the way across the top. Otherwise, I usually just come up a little bit and then start trying to add some hair shapes. When it comes to adding hair shapes, I usually just try to think, instead of drawing every line, what shape am I going for? And I start adding those in as shapes first. And this is not to draw anything in a particular style. It's just to get the shape in. I know that looks very cartoony. So then I come back. See, how can I make this less heavy? Yeah. Normally I wouldn't erase it quite so hard. Let's drop the size of that. And then once I got that figured out, then I'll start coming in. It's like, well, I want it to kind of go up like this. Maybe something a little downward, like that. Give him some eyebrows. Going to be just above this line here in the middle, kind of in line with this dot here. That is very basically how I draw a person. If you want, you can put some cheekbones just kind of on the edge of that triangle, come down a little bit like that. The mouth, you know what, we'll cover that real quick. If you want a slightly more realistic mouth, you're essentially taking a shape like this and sticking it on top of a shape like that, and then just cutting out a divot for it in the middle. It's very, very basic, and then you just kind of customize the shape of it per character. Usually the divot or the line down the center is shaped a little bit more like that, as well as the top of the lip. So that again. Bottom lip's usually a little bigger. There you go. That is basic how I draw a figure, sketch one in place. This does work from a variety of different positions and angles. And so just real quick, if I wanted to tilt the character, I could do this. Let's move this bottom triangle way over here. It's still going to follow the same basic rules. I'm going to roll up off here. I know that roughly here, so even though I can't reach it exactly the same way, I still know roughly where that's going to end. I know my shoulder hangs off here. I know the other one hangs off here. I know if I bring a line straight down the middle, that gives me roughly center line of my body. The same thing there. Again, from the bottom of the ball, just quickly cut, not perfectly to this middle spot here, but just a little off to the sides. Roll off the top, roll off the top, as best as I can. From here, there's that tear shape again. That's not quite a tear shape. That's more of a tear shape. More of a lemon shape. Or almond shape, maybe. Ball for the knee. Another one of those tear shapes. Or almond shapes. We'll go ahead and zoom out just a smidgen so we can see this. The arms hang off. So roll into that almond tear lemon shape just like last time. Now I know that I'm going to have an elbow ball here for my elbows, so I'm going to roll my tear shape up this way this time around. This one I'm going to keep bringing it down again. There is that basic hand shape again. And this one's a little harder because the foot is not sitting perfectly forward. And so I actually will do something very similar for what I do for the hands, for the feet in this case, just to help me figure out where they go. The head, same thing, bring that line up, curve here, curve here. I know that I want my head kind of turned a little bit, so I'm just going with a shape a little bit more like this. Egg slightly turned. Ooh, I grabbed the wrong tool. Still an egg, just turning it a little bit. Slapping that on top. Basic figure.